This topic is choosing an appropriate method for gathering data. And this first example says Tom wants to find the average time it takes West High School students to run a lap around the track. So he will consider a sample of students to find the average time. Part A says which unit or units could be used for the unit of measurement. Check all that apply. Remember, this is the time to run one lap around the track. Depends on how big that lap or that track is. If it's a very large track, I suppose it could be minutes. I don't think it's going to be hours unless either the students are really slow or the lap is like miles long. It could be seconds if the lap is fairly short. Inches and meters measure distance, not time, though. And part B says which of the procedures below would be the best way to find the average time. So the first choice is randomly pick 6 students to run a lap around the track and have them state their own times. Randomly choosing people is a good option, but having them state their own times, I don't know that I would believe them. If they're really slow, I don't know that they're going to necessarily tell you the correct time. They may not also measure their time accurately. So I would say that one's out. The second one says randomly pick 24 students to run a lap around the track and measure their times. So not only are we randomly picking more students, we're measuring their times. So I like that one, but let's read the other choices. Measure the times of 6 volunteers who run around the track. We are measuring their times, but it's fewer people and it's volunteers. And generally people who will volunteer will be people who aren't going to be super slow because they'd only volunteer if they're not going to be embarrassed. So probably not the best one there. And the last one, again, asks for volunteers and asks them to state their own time, both of which are bad choices. So I think the best answer is the second one. This next one says a scientist wants to find the average mass of fish living in a large pond. So she will use the masses of a sample of fish from the pond to find the average mass. Part A, which unit or units could be used for the unit of measurement? The only choices that are measures of mass are kilograms, grams, and milligrams. Minutes and seconds are measures of time. A milligram is maybe what you would measure a grain of rice with, and I think that's going to be too small for a fish. So grams could be a small fish, kilograms could be a large fish. I think those are reasonable. Part B, which of the procedures below would be the best way to find the average mass? And just like in the last example, anytime you're trying to find the average of a population, you generally want to choose randomly. And you want to do the measuring yourself as accurately as possible. So the first choice is pick 42 fish from a shallow region of the pond and estimate their masses. Well, I see a couple problems. A shallow region is probably only going to get the small fish, and estimating their masses is never going to get you an exact answer. So I think that one's out. The second choice is pick 2 fish from a shallow region. That's not very many fish. It's a shallow region, but at least we're weighing them this time, but I still think that choice is out. Randomly pick 42 fish from the entire pond and weigh each of them. That sounds good. The last one says randomly pick 2 fish from the entire pond and estimate them. The more samples you have, the better average you will get. And one last example, Goran wants to find the average height of students in the 9th grade at Washington High School, so he will use the heights of 50 students in the 9th grade to find the average height. So part A, again, wants us to choose the appropriate unit of measurement, and we're looking for ones that measure length. That would be centimeters and inches, and I think both of those would be reasonable to measure someone's height. Part B says which of the procedures below would be the best way to find the average height. Just as before, we want to randomly pick people and we want to do the measuring ourselves. So the first one says volunteers and they're stating their own heights. The second one does say measure the heights of 50 people, but they're all volunteers. The third one says randomly pick students and measure their heights. That sounds good. And the fourth one says randomly pick, but have them just state their own heights. So I think the third choice is your best option.